Okay, hello and welcome back to RJA Revealed. We finished Pool 1, so now we're going to move on to Pool 2. And the first song is Waves at 120% speed, but of course the path doesn't change at from regular speed. So yeah, we'll take a look at that right now. Dive straight in. No need for introductions, even though I just did one. Alright, anyway, 3 phrases. We got this phrase right here, which luckily these first 2 phrases don't have any whammy, which is there's a lot of whammy in this song, so there's very few phrases that don't have any whammy. These first 2, neither of them do, but anyway, we whammy this as much as we can, which makes this first activation actually pretty awkward and almost impossible if you use the XP button to activate and whammy at the same time. So obviously when it's impossible to do that, I go for a tilt act. This felt like was a bit weird because while I was whamming at the same time, it's that sort of thing happens in immediate results as well, but not the notes are a bit slower there. I think it's just one long sustain where I'm whammying and then tilting. So in this one there's a little more action going on, so it's like you're doing 3 things at once. Yeah, well, 4 really. You're hitting notes, whammying, tilting and activating. So I guess the tilting and activating is basically the same thing though. But yeah, if my mouse would like to stop disconnecting, yeah, we're just aiming for this blue note. It would end up being a little bit earlier or a little bit later most of the time. So that's the thing with tilt act, it's never going to be exact. But it's good enough, really. If you get good enough whammy, you'll get at least the majority of this fast bit, and ideally the activation will end right here before this phrase. And you get everything fast and nothing slow, except for this stuff, but that's just a bonus really. So yeah, first act, a bit challenging. Hardest act in the song though, which is good news. So this next phrase, it's just a whammy phrase. It's immediately after. You have like literally no risk of having too much star power and hitting this orange note, so you can just whammy the whole thing, no problem. Just some more basic phrases, more whammy phrases, and then the second activation is pretty simple to be fair. So the way I remembered it was, we're waiting for this quad zig. It's kind of distinct because you don't often get this pattern without the yellows, the GRBO zigs, so we're waiting for that, and then our cue is this descending triplet here, and there's a break after these 5 notes, so yeah, we hit these 5 notes, a very very short break, and then we activate on the blue. So yep, exactly where it tells us to activate, no problems there. And yeah, we're whammying this next phrase. There's some short sustains, but it's mainly remembering to whammy this note right here quite intensely because there's a lot of fast stuff going on, and we want to get as much of it as possible. And there is no danger of overlapping if you activate here, because obviously this being, I guess it's not the early whammy path, but I'm pretty sure even if you got full early whammy, you probably wouldn't overlap there. Maybe you would, but with an Explorer there's absolutely no risk of overlapping this phrase, and you don't want to overlap this phrase, it goes without saying. So yeah, this activation pretty easy. Next one, so we have this phrase and this phrase, and an immediate act. Now this one's a bit annoying as well. These notes here, just because of these 3 blues, the latter 2 I'm pretty sure the latter 2 are both strums, so that's a little alt strumming bit. And you gotta remember this is 120% speed as well. Even though the BPM is slow, this is still relatively quick right here. So yeah, getting my finger prepared and doing a little alt strum like that is not too easy. So it's not trivial, but it's also not that hard. And yeah, it's just preparing my finger to activate immediately on this note. It's really lucky that this phrase right here has no whammy at all, otherwise it'd probably be another tilt act, or I would have to sacrifice some whammy. So yeah, not too bad, but probably the second most notable activation in this song. So yeah, and there's only 4 activations in this song. It's quite a long song, you'd expect more, but for some reason there's only 4 activations. The slow BPM might have something to do with it, but yeah. That activation, no overlapping or anything, and it perfectly ends on this grace note here. And yeah, there's no whammy, so literally I've been able to get that exact before. Not too hard to do. And then we get to the final activation. A couple of whammy phrases, and then it says to activate on this yellow here, which I'm going to tell you right now I didn't do. And the reason I'm not acting here is because we have an overlap phrase that's pretty tight if you activate on this yellow right here. In fact, I'm willing to say it's going to be extremely tight, because otherwise it would tell us to activate on this blue. So I opted to delay it, of course, and I went for the red strum because the strum is easy to remember, and it's like the only strum in this whole thing, and it's also right at the beginning, so we're not sacrificing too many notes. We are sacrificing a decent amount of points, maybe like, I don't know, 1,000, 200, 1,400, something like that. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're scoring like 520k, it's not that much. And it is really necessary to get this final act because it's the final phrase. Necessary to get this final level up because it's the final phrase. So, and you can't whammy this enough and get enough star power to activate again. So yeah, and instead of ending here, we'd end, I think, on this yellow, blue, grace note. So we get some notes in exchange for these notes, but I think we're probably still losing about 1,000, something like that, maybe 800, but probably 1,000. So yeah, and that's the path. Optimal score says 521, so I'm pretty sure I was getting 515, maybe 516. So we're losing about 5k, and considering, you know, how many notes are in this song, it's not like a trivial path or anything like that, and the activations aren't in obvious places. So yeah, it's a pretty decent alteration, and I don't think I ever lost this song, so yeah, worked ones for me. But we will move on to the notes.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the notes of Waves, or I'd say we're going to take a look, but it's not going to be too long because, to be honest with you, I never took this song into practice. I never missed it once. I sight read FC'd it in the random match against UCog, and then I just decided, well, clearly I'm good enough at it, so we'll just learn the path, and that was it really. But having said that, it does have some very missable parts, so we'll just take a look at the solos, I assume the sections are. So right there you have a pretty fast mini trill. Along with a pretty fast lick after that. So there's a few things in there that could trip you up. Obviously the mini trill. There's that one random blues strum that's in there that is worth remembering. And then obviously that whole lick is pretty quick. But honestly, if you're just warmed up, I think the best thing for this song is to just be warmed up enough so that your one-handing is fast. Because there's nothing you need to learn here. So yeah, I'll just play it again, I guess. I honestly don't really know what to say here. Blue strum. There's two quints down there, but if you just slide, it's fine. So solo 1 isn't the hardest part anyway. So we have the quiet solo, and there's nothing hard in the quiet solo. There's a lick at the end that's quite fast, but it's not really worth mentioning. Now the bridge is missable. There's a random red hammer on there. I remember at least once in a match I strummed that and I was like, oh my gosh, why is that a strum? I thought it was going to overstrum. So it's definitely worth remembering that that's there. And it's a down strum as well, so it can put you off kilter. So double down after that. Not that it really matters because it's in like 15, 16. But anyway, this is that Heartland Bridge. Now normally I would tap something like that. I don't know why I decided not to. Maybe it's because just I don't know, a relatively quick transition from strumming to elbow strumming. It's not that fast, but yeah, for some reason I decided it wasn't worth tapping it, and I would normally standard tap something like this. And As a result, it sort of became more missable because you see these bits where it goes. Well, it starts off on one, but like where it goes up to a yellow, blue, orange zig, and then back down, but then it goes up to a blue after the yellow. Stuff like that kills me. I don't know why, but yeah, I just generally anchor as much as I can for stuff like that, and it normally hits. But of course it can miss, that's the only thing. Otherwise it's just, you know, sliding. After the first half it's pretty free, because it's all ascending stuff. But yeah, that's missable. Obviously it's probably the most obvious fast part of the song anyway. But the hardest part of the song, I'll just select solo 3, I don't know exactly where the hard parts are. Obviously we have this one phrase that I downstrum through. Well, I don't downstrum through it, I alt-strum the double blue. But it's while my pinky is extended over the select button, so I don't have that, like, all my fingers underneath the strum bar, which makes it a little bit trickier, I guess. But this is the hardest part. It starts off relatively slow, but quite a few random strums, and especially this blue here is especially weird at placing for it, because immediately after it is a mini yellow-blue trill. But yeah, 3 random strums. Just remembering that they're there. Remembering that there are random strums at least. I don't even remember that there's 3. Just prepare for the strums. In fact, the green starts it off, so the green is barely, it's not really, isn't even one. But yeah, just mini trills really. The mini trills are the parts that are missable there. But I think mainly there, if you prepare for that blue strum and anchor in yellow as soon as you hit the blue strum, then that'll pretty much, it'll hit. Well, and then it's just a case of being fast. I'll just play through the rest of 3, because I know there's one more shreddy bit, which isn't too bad. 3B is really where it's at, if you will. 3B and bridge. So 3C is obviously nothing. Nice miss there, buddy. Alright, there is one part I remember now. I think it might be the end of this, so I'm going to set A position. It's the grace note part. Yeah, so that part is probably best to downstrum it all. Definitely. It's just so much more obvious, because then you're not starting a grace note part, like a Dream Genie part or an upstrum. Alright, the upstrums can throw you off for some reason. But it's worth remembering that that's there for sure. And then we have this part, which isn't actually hard. I think it's basically just 16ths actually. But there is this pattern, which, if you can see there, I'm staying in second position and moving to 1.5. So my middle finger is always on the yellow there, and that's definitely the best way to do that. That shredding bit there is just stuff you would see in the bridge. So yeah, just this pattern again, because it's definitely not worth doing it in first position. That can be awkward. So if you will, I'm sliding my finger down on the green, but I'm not actually sliding, I'm just moving it, because there's no red before it. But yeah. And then, just the final thing, remember that this last lick is here, because I forgot about it once and almost missed it. Just a quintzig, but it is there. And that's the end of the song. As I say, I don't have anything I did really to stay consistent. I'm giving threw a few ideas out there, but as I say, I didn't actually practice this song at all, because I just played it once and I was fine at it really. But having said that, we will do a run of it right now. Okay, so that was Waves 120. I got 517.7. I think that's a bit better than I would normally do. I don't know why that is. Maybe I just had better whammy. I think I had some incidental squeezes, so maybe that's something to do with it. But anyway, yeah, that was Waves 120, and our next song is going to be Wisdomiard. So we'll see you in that.